after Sunday's pump was immediately erased with Monday's dump. Moonboys worldwide are crawling around on their bellies like little slugs, leaving a trail of disappointment and sticky goo behind them. But is the dump over? Or is the dump just beginning? So if you understand that it's always dumpiest before it's dumpiest, hit that like and subscribe. Get signed up with Femex or BITUNIX below if you want to buy Bitcoin, altcoins, or trade. And without any further absolute ado, let's take a look at Bitcoin today, where, as I'm sure you know, Pump Sunday completely erased Monday. And now on Tuesday, we are sliding further again to the dumpy zone. And there's some reasons for this. Clearly, the tariffs on Canada, China, are bringing down global markets in general. You can see here, this is the SPX, same exact trajectory as Bitcoin and really the rest of the market. And this is basically a shakeup that is meant to destabilize short-term for long-term gains. So pretty much we're in the eye of the storm of the dumpulation. There is economically policy and macroeconomic global events fundamentally that are occurring right now that are preventing, obviously, risk assets, stock market, Bitcoin, crypto from pumping. And it's going to be a turbulent time. And actually, one of the things I want to talk about is exactly this, the CME gap, which we talked about. Even though we came right into this gap, technically, as I mentioned on the day that it happened and after it bounced, we technically didn't actually come down to the very itsy bitsy, completely fill bottom of this CME gap. We didn't completely fill it. So again, as I've been saying since just a couple of days ago, I personally think that it's very likely we could just see this actually get filled. I personally think going, as I've been saying, to the mid 70s, potentially even low $70,000 per Bitcoin. So let's look at a few things before we continue with the charts. The bears on Bitcoin don't want you to see this chart side by side, but this is back in 2020, very similar BART pattern, which initiated the straight up. But personally, as well, you can see this is the CME gap, and there's the same CME gap or a similar one we had back in 2020 as well. These CME gaps, unfortunately, seem to fill not 100% of the time, but pretty often. It's not like guaranteed they have to fill, but it's like, as far as I know, it's like over 90% of them, I believe, do get filled. So that's interesting. We also see as well this chart with Bitcoin currently being an optimism according to Max Brown on X, and altcoins being here in disbelief, meaning really what we've seen for altcoins for the past couple of years is just this, which is exactly what we've seen. Just this range here, and this range here. Altcoins really have not really pumped, especially these top alts have really not done well. There's been the microcap, garbage, and meme coins that obviously have pumped like they always do, no matter if it's a bull or bear market, but those are not indicative of the rest of the market. Maybe leave a comment below where you think we're at in terms of this dumpulation. Crypto Gel on X as well, saying he hates how much this makes sense, but realistically, also this chart showing that we still have some room to go to the downside. Pretty much, if we look at a weekly chart, coming back to fill this whole range right here. Again, as I just said, maybe down to the mid to low $70,000 range. We technically have also not gotten down to the 50-week moving average. I just think in the very, very short term, I'm talking about literally like the next week, I think it's still likely we go lower. I think that's the base case for the very short term right now, is that what makes the most sense is that we have lower to go. Now, as we all saw with the news of even recycled news, which we already had heard about a crypto strategic reserve, which we got on Sunday, they recycled that headline again, and the markets went crazy, right? The market was ready to pump. Bitcoin on the daily chart exploded. Altcoins specifically exploded, like Cardano, Solana, XRP exploded. Specifically, Cardano pumped a lot on that news, right? This was basically 100% weekly candle, kind of banana mode. Basically, all that to say is that the market is ready to pump on fundamental news, but we are not working. We're not in that part of the fundamental cycle at this point. What's happening is that Trump is imposing these tariffs. it is going to be short-term painful. It is going to be painful. That is really the purpose of this. Short-term pain for long-term gain is a phrase I've been hearing, but it also really is true. You know, before things can really get pumpy, they need to get dumpy. And in fact, they might get much more dumpy. That's the thing. Specifically, I'm not even talking about Bitcoin specifically. I'm talking about the stock market. I'm talking about risk assets. I'm talking about just economies in general, right? Because a tariff war with Canada, China, these places are going to put strains on all of us, right? And it's really about who caves first. And that is the strategy here. And it could end up being very, very bullish. It could go the other way as well. That's the game we're playing right now. But we also see this. This is the best regulatory environment Bitcoin has ever had. So I have never been more confident in Bitcoin. You look in the past, this chart did not look favorable to Bitcoin, right? The green represents positive changes for the crypto and Bitcoin space in the last 5 years. Things have gotten massively positive. For example, we see Bitcoin ETFs and ETPs, exchange-traded products, were approved in 34 countries. The US has begun to allow custody to Bitcoin this year. This is a new thing. Venezuela actually banned Bitcoin mining last year, but that's one of the only negative things. Bitcoin was legalized in Bolivia. Argentina legalized Bitcoin payments in 2023. Russia legalized mining and Bitcoin usage. The only other negative was China partially banned Bitcoin back in 2021. But then Hong Kong allowing access to investors in 2023, Turkey legalizing Bitcoin payments 2024, Nigeria legalizing Bitcoin 2023. So the global environment for Bitcoin is changing for the better. And in my opinion, it has never been a better long-term investment than it is now. It is quite literally the best option right now. It just so happens to be that in the very, very, very short term, in terms of investments, a lot of options are heading down or are not looking short-term good for gains. If you're shorting the markets, then I think that there's opportunity here. But for at least the foreseeable future, in the very short term, this could change like that, which is why I don't want to get too hung up on it. We also see the 11.5 trillion asset manager BlackRock said if every millionaire in the US asked their financial advisor to give them one Bitcoin, there would not be enough. There is not enough Bitcoin for every millionaire on the planet to own one Bitcoin, let alone the planet. In the US, there's not enough Bitcoin for every millionaire in the US to own an entire Bitcoin. This is writing on the wall. This is going to be one of those things that right now we're going through a turbulent time. People are scared. The market's dumping a little bit and people are losing hope and fear and whatever. This is the exact time we're going to look back in, again, I can't predict the exact future, but let's say maybe 3 months from now, maybe 6 months from now, definitely 10 years from now, definitely 30 years from now, we're going to be looking back and saying, wow, it was so obvious. If only I could have had a longer term mindset and shut out the short term noise, which a lot of people can't do, then they would be benefiting. But in the very, very short term, people are scared. And that is not new at all. And also the banana zone did in fact become reality. It just so happens that the banana is going down. So if we look, obviously fear is still very high in this market. We're still pretty low on the fear and greed index. We're still very fearful. I personally think, as I've said the last like 2 or 3 videos, I personally would feel better if we actually dumped lower here. If we actually filled this gap completely, if we went below 77K temporarily in a wick. Will we get it? Again, myself and nobody watching, nobody on the planet knows for sure. I just personally think in the very, very short term, it's better to get the dump out of the way as opposed to teeter-tottering and delaying it. As well, if we look, all of the short-term moving averages for Bitcoin have been lost for now. And the weekly chart, 50-week moving average, as I've been saying, is still right at about $75,000 per Bitcoin. So that is a nice target to aim for. As I've also highlighted at the beginning of the video, this whole retest we haven't gotten a back test of, which is basically $70,000 to $75,000 per Bitcoin. It is an ideal optimal buying point. If we end up getting this pullback over the next week or so, do not be surprised if a wick would actually go below this level. Okay, that's exactly how those type of crashes, if it's a flash crash, that's exactly how those would play out. And you would in the event of that happening, you would quite literally have seconds to be buying or bidding those wicks. Hopefully, if your limit orders are filled or placed already. But those opportunities are rare. I'm not saying, again, we don't know if it's going to happen. We could get some news in a couple hours and the market starts pumping. But as of right now, the fundamental landscape is more bearish, and it's primarily because of these tariffs. The stock market, the SPX, is not liking them. I mean, look at the SPX on the weekly chart. This is the lowest we've been since back in November. Basically, we're, how much? About less than 100 points away from erasing all of the gains that occurred once Trump was elected, once the results of the election came in. So, again, short-term pain is the name. The US dollar is also, however, not doing good. Okay, there's a lot of things going on. A lot of people are confused. This is the moment of maximum opportunity. One thing that is always true, and every single person that's watching can agree on this, is that when the market is up and we're at new all-time highs and everything's just exploding, one thing that every investor in the market thinks is, wow, I basically should have had more skin in the game. I should have been more aggressive during those painful opportunities. Well, right now we're in the middle of a painful opportunity. And as I'm saying, this opportunity, this pain could still get worse. So the only thoughts that future successful and past successful investors are having right now is, okay, where is my maximum opportunity? And that maximum opportunity is close. It could be this. This could literally be the max opportunity. It could be another 5-10% below where we currently are. I think people need to have understanding that basically, this is actually the best example of it. This market can flip like this. So no matter how scared and bearish you are right now, just think back to literally 2 days ago, where all of your fear was erased and then all of your hope was erased in 2 daily candles. The market can move extremely fast, and in fact, it does. And the volatility is slowly coming back into this market after 3 months of trading sideways. There is going to be some major moves and some major shakeups. And the best advice I can give right now is that this is when you want to be hunting for that maximum opportunity. This is when you want to be watching the market closer than ever. And get signed up with Femex or BITUNIX below if you want my Bitcoin altcoins or trade. Without further ado.